Call the meeting to order. Quiet, please, if you can. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Next item is EDA funding. Okay, we have here a request for funds for $40,858. Now, I'm not prepared to entertain a motion for this because
They just made that for our budget, consider it a budget time.
oh, okay, all right, then that's fine. We didn't have to have it on the agenda, really. I thought you just wanted to know now.
Oh, okay.
If you look in the list, if I may be so to speak, if you look in the list, that you have, it's there, it's described when you get ready to use that list. It's there. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
What's the purpose for this funding?
Oh, it's matching and education for
Match
students.
from other sources.
Yeah.
And I think they're wanting
Do they
to
want to,
increase the hours
Yeah.
from 25 to 40.
40 hours a week?
EDA,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's now working 25 hours.
he's really smart.
Okay,
It's working
yes.
more. It's
Yes,
paying
he is.
for
Yes,
it.
that's true.
Okay. All right. Next item is Dan Welling's part-time employee. I guess we have to put this in a motion.
I'll make a motion to put Dan Wellings on as a part-time employee.
Okay. Motion has been made.
Was
Floodplain. That didn't say
that what you were
Yeah,
It didn't say-
looking for, a part-time employee?
yeah,
How many hours?
however many it takes. The duties, somebody asked about the duties for that. There is a FEMA publication, it's like 400 and some pages.
491.
You know, Chapter 7 deals with administration, and the floodplain administrator, it lists the duties and responsibilities of the floodplain administrator. Several pages in there, so you can't, it'd take me a good while to read it all to you. But if you want to know the duties involved with the floodplain administrator for Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Can I say something else? Is the county, if this is a position with the county, do you not have to post the job to follow some of those requirements? You can just make an assignment?
Let me see if I can answer that. He was interim. We hired him as interim. We're making him part-time. I don't think we have to post that position, but what do you got any comments, Eric?
I mean, I'd look at the county handbook, and I haven't, in my experience from looking at the county handbook, that there's no requirement for posting, especially for that position.
I didn't see it in there either. I read it.
Now, if the commission or the wage and hour board would like to change that down the road, they could, but
And it may be that we might need to change the title of that position. I'm waiting to hear from Mr. Sneed on that. He indicated the way that we had it worded probably wouldn't suit FEMA. I use FEMA loosely there, Homeland Security and all that you can imagine. May be necessary to perhaps word something like OES director, and have Pat in charge of emergency services, and maybe the OES director in charge of floodplain management in order to appease them in the wording of the decision, I believe.
You just changed that whole floodplain ordinance to take out the OES. So now they're wanting you to be OES floodplain?
I'm yet to learn all the details of that. I would rather refrain from that. But they said the way we had the position worded, they didn't think would suit them. And
Well, but the old floodplain ordinance that has been declared didn't suit them either,
Right.
or that it suited them.
Exactly.
It
So-
suited.
So the title, like I said, may change in order to appease. Yes, Linda?
I make a motion.
I have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
And for point of clarification, you used the word FEMA, did you mean the West Virginia Department, blah, 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 blah?
Home
not FEMA?
Security and FEMA I use in
They're
the
not
same
really FEMA.
context, yes. That's what I was trying to say there. Office of Home Security and FEMA I use in the same context.
I'm kind of new at this, so I don't know a lot, but the person you were talking about who is going to review your stuff, is that our lawyer or is that?
No, that is the head for the state of the Home Security, Kevin Sneed.
Homeland
He's our state
Oh, okay, it's through the
director.
state.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will know more once I get a chance to, field more questions, once I have a chance to talk to Mr. Tennant.
Say it's coming. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Donald Tennant, our lawyer for this floodplain ordinance and our lawsuit and whatever have you. He's gonna be here at 2 o'clock to meet with the commission and Mr. Welling and our attorney and the clerk, and he's gonna go over this floodplain ordinance for our, I guess, not approval yet. Going to point out some things we need to address, and I'm probably anticipating we'll be in executive session.
So what are you gonna do between now and then?
We're going to do some bidding. We're going to sign some invoices. Yes, ma'am.
So you're going to go into executive session to discuss the floodplain. Are any of the comments that were sent in to Mr. Wellings and to the commission and to Mr. Montero, have they been considered and have they been read?
They will be considered as soon as we review the floodplain ordinance. I've considered the ones I've got, and I'm sure everybody else has, but we haven't discussed them. But we're going to discuss them at 2 o'clock.
Are they gonna be made open to the public to see what, for the public to see what various members of the public had to say?
Well, I would assume. I would assume there will be.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, after we have our
Yeah.
meeting, we can.
We're not going to try to hide anything from anybody. But no
Not
meeting.
in a corner, folks. We are not trying to go in the dark. All your comments have been read. I've looked at them. I appreciate every comment that I got. Believe me, I do. And there were very, very good points brought out. But I cannot go into specifics at this time as to what we're going to be able to put in and what we can't until I have a chance to talk to Mr. Tennant.
The edited copy that you people are going to work on today in the executive session, will it be available to us to review?
That's what I was going to ask.
The changes that you're going to make into what was presented in here at the last meeting?
Yeah.
When we have our first reading, because we're not going to have our first reading today.
Oh, I guarantee.
Yes, when we have our first reading, you will have a chance to have that and have see how those comments have been incorporated.
I think we ought to, if you're going to make changes to what was presented here the other day, I would think that we ought to be entitled to review those changes before you even consider having first reading.
I believe that's what they're doing. They're not doing any action today, they're meeting with their attorney. If there are any changes that be made available to the public, and there will be a first reading at the next commission.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, I have some big concerns about this. And the fact is that I'm a litigator in this lawsuit that wrote for the county that did not do their job.
Well, believe me, we're not trying to hide anything from any citizen in this county.
And
We're
I
going
can
to try
assure
to
you
do
that based on the purpose of this ordinance is to protect the citizens,
Yeah,
the citizens of this county.
that's one of the issues we have in that ordinance. It's not only to protect the citizens, it's to protect every landowner.
That's right.
Whether they live in this county or they don't.
Right.
We're not trying to hide anything from nobody.
Yeah, exactly, and it's been pointed out that, you know, non-residents, that way we're not, hey, we're gonna change that word. I'm not sure just how we're gonna do it, it may be, real property owners or something like, I don't know how we're gonna get something in there.
Freeholders. That's a deed holder.
Well, yeah, I mean, there could be people that have, lifetime rights and this and that, and absolutely, there's different things that can be
Construed into that.
But
Sorry, go ahead, Ken.
Well, if everything's being above board, nobody's hiding anything, why the executive meeting? Why not just?
Probably, my reasoning for that is probably we want to review it, and I know that the audience here will want to ask a lot of questions while we're doing that, and we'll never get it done today.
So will it be on the agenda for the next meeting?
Sure
for
will.
those of us that can't stay?
Yes, it'll be on the agenda for 2 more meetings,
at least.
at
At
least
least,
2.
and maybe,
Maybe 3.
Our chance to get it right.
We want to get it right.
because after the first reading, we're entitled to make comments and changes to it.
I don't know.
Yes, go back and read. You have the counselor here, and I believe if you'll find out when you're passing an ordinance to read the first, because you have 2 readings of it, the first reading, and then you have, during that interim period, you have a time, people have a time to make a comment on it. And the comments have to be ruled upon before the second reading.
I'm not going to argue with you because I don't know.
Well, I'm not gonna argue either, but I can see that you could delay something indefinitely.
Well, you can't.
Because, you know, if we come up with something and then it was the first reading and then there were comments and say, okay, we have to revise
Very
that.
heavy.
And then the next time, there's some more so I understand what you're saying,
Yeah, well,
but I also think that,
we had time to walk.
but I don't know, you know, I mean, I don't know the law as far as first and second readings.
Between, after the first reading, that's where you have the first reading. The interim period is for public comments.
I thought that was the purpose of this public comment period that we just had. Now, if we change it, then we'll have to have, I assume another.
You have to come up with a final form before you have to come up with a final ordinance before you have first reading.
Right.
And I hope that this is what you're going to address today in executive session.
I'll know after the executive session what we're going to discuss today.
I have a question. In the best interest of the county, was a letter written to FEMA and the Federal Insurance Floodplain Board explaining to them, because you have that limited, 60-day period for certain things to make sure that they understand that you're in the process of working on this, so you're not in violation of anything, so the county does not lose the floodplain insurance? I might not be explaining it correctly, but I was under the impression that there is a time frame involved, but that, like FEMA would probably work with the commission if they're notified and informed that you are in the process of doing something. You don't have to raise your hands.
The 60-day thing is, as I take it, with the permit process and the permits themselves. I'm pretty sure in the, on the main page document that we just recited right there, that in these issues right here, I believe it says that we have 6 months to address those issues. When there is an ordinance that has to be changed or reports or something, say, that something has to be changed.
So right now, if we're taking December 14th as the date,
I would
The
assume
hearing,
that's
so
when the
we're in
clock
like
would
a
start rolling.
phase, we're in 3 months.
And, you know, that is why I've tried to be so expeditious about this, is that I knew it's going to keep dragging along there. And I'm trying to keep the process moving as fast as I can. Please do not feel that I was trying to snub your comments by not being in favor of the committee. And no intention whatsoever to do that. I very sincerely have taken all of your comments to heart. It was trying to get this into place as quickly as we might be able to because of Mark West, JB, different other things.
Well, my primary concerns are the safety of the people in this county that owns property, whether they live here or don't live here. But the primary concern is the effects that the flooding situation can have on potential water pollution, damage of property, and damage of life.
Well, as we speak, there's nothing happening. There are no permits. The permits that were pending, I sent back to the people, gave them their check back, said you will have to reapply once we have an ordinance in place. So there are absolutely no permits pending right now in the floodplain.
Can I ask, have you taken input from the industry, like from Equitable or any of the other oil and gas companies? Are you taking their input into effect also?
They have drug their feet and getting their responses in. One of the things that will be discussed in the executive session, I'll go ahead and tell you, is I want to extend the comment period. That will give these entities another,
Well, they had the
Couple weeks
same
or
amount of
something.
time as we did.
Well, why?
and along with anybody else, not just him, I mean the whole public, the whole
Yeah,
general
but you
public.
didn't want to at the last meeting.
Well, I was trying to get
10 days,
things
that's it.
expeditiously moved along, Tina, and in retrospect, it hasn't worked that way.
Now,
Okay? And the people have, contacted me, everyone from the State Chamber of Commerce, saying we need a little more time. So it is my feeling that we have to give them a little more time. Okay?
Well, you
And
may
that
wanna
includes
give
the
it to
general
citizens.
public, you guys do, you have this opportunity to add to your comments, to come up with more comments, but at some point, we gotta have, this is the deadline. This is it.
Well, why don't you tell the gas companies and the Chamber of Commerce that you said that to us at the last meeting? You're only getting 10 days. That's what you should tell them too, and that's it. You should not extend it to them.
Well, it's not just for them, it is for the entire general public. Okay, and that is yet to be decided, but that is my personal feeling. This is new to these guys, and I would like to see the period extended for another 2 weeks, so that everybody has more time.
Okay, so if you extended for another 2 weeks, that brings us into the next county commission meeting. But yeah, and that will be the first reading?
Well, that's another thing I have to go over with Mr. Tennant, because of our unusual situation here with our county paper, where things have to be in on Thursday or Friday to get them in the paper on Tuesday, whether the logistics of it will work or not. These are the issues that we have to discuss.
Oh, I for one, really feel like we would pursue this, very well because this is serious. It's serious, this is very serious.
And it appears
It's
that
a
this,
situation. I'm sure when we get to these injection wells, it's gonna be 10 times worse too, so. But, I'm concerned, I'm very concerned, and, nobody's trying, but I'm not trying to cause any hassles or anything. I just, I live in a floodplain, and I've had some serious floods. They scare me to death, and I think this is a really serious situation.
it is a very serious
And it
issue.
deserves a lot of thought.
And it has become quite apparent that, more than likely, our, whatever we come with is going to be a basis for these other counties to get also.
Truly.
So, that is why a lot of players have all of a sudden been forth in the last couple of days, particularly I say the industry and all there, saying, whoa, wait a minute, we need a little more time to look this over.
Well, we need,
Well,
And since we're not going to have our reading ready for today, I see no reason why I cannot let them and everybody else have a little bit more time if they want to say something.
So this is gonna be published at next Tuesday's meeting, is
Hey,
extending that it's gonna be the public comment.
we will be able to answer that better once we come out of executive session, and I know Mr. Tim.
Well, I have a little problem with this. You say that industry, state chamber of commerce and so forth. To me, this ordinance pertains to Doddridge County and to protect the citizens of Doddridge County and for the other people to comply with the ordinance,
Yes.
period.
Is there a Doddridge County Chamber of Commerce? I mean, they're the ones that should have.
Lord have mercy, don't get any more.
Excuse me.
I mean, they're the ones
Excuse me,
that should have
Dan.
input.
Mr. Foster has a point, but because the decision was made in court to basically knock the other one, call the other one illegal, and they said, what, 50 of the counties or more had already approved that same document, it became a state issue.
Exactly.
And that's why we're being looked at.
Yeah. But we,
Wood County is going to look at theirs in the next county meeting in Wood County.
but we all are working together. This is our county, and we're
Well,
protecting
and
ourselves and our citizens. It is the most important.
Exactly, and just as Greg stated there earlier, I'm trying to be just as open as to be and take everybody's comments here on this, and regardless of how personal feelings may be towards the industry or whatever, they have as much right to say as anybody else. And to this point, they are hollering, we need a little more time. So
That gives us more
that is
time.
something that I'm going to bring up in executive session. I'm telling you right now, I would like to see another couple of weeks.
I would too.
There's one thing with like some of the FEMA documents that I have been reading, and I mean, one of them is a 451-page document. But the one thing that FEMA strongly on the national level recommends, they recommend that local communities or small communities take their standards and make an even higher standard, not to diminish what the base is. And some of the reading in the preliminary version or the edited version that I read, it does actually minimize some of the FEMA standards that were in place.
And I believe those, for the ones that I'm thinking of, FEMA has said, you cannot change this. This is our minimum standard.
So you can strengthen it.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes. You can always make any ordinance stronger,
That's one thing I
stronger
noticed
than
too.
than what is required by the law.
Minimum
You can
standard,
always
I
make it
think,
stronger.
should be higher.
But we have to meet at least their minimum
Right,
standards,
but
right?
one of the things for those of us, and I know people in this room have lived in this county a heck of a lot longer than I have, but I just know after living here for 30 some odd years, the whole flooding situation is changing. It's changing in my neighborhood. The stuff is getting more and more intense. And the more development we have that's occurring with these sites that are pipe yards and all this other stuff, the more and I'm not saying it's causing it, but the fill in the creeks and everything else is making the flooding higher and severer, and it's coming up faster. Plus the flash flood situations that we have occurring. I mean, it's, and I would even venture to say that 100-year flood thing, that has changed. The criteria for the 100-year flood thing in this area, it has changed. It has changed in the last 30 years, watching and observing it, etc. The waters are getting higher, it's happening quicker, and it's taking longer for them to recede. So that's something that really needs to be considered. And the questions people had about some of these engineering studies, if these engineering studies that are being done are based solely on computer-generated data, they are not valid. They are not valid for a region like this. Had one county resident where an access road was being developed or put on their property for a well pad. This county resident had pictures of the flooding situation, convincing this engineer from this drilling company that this truly did occur. That individual did not believe her. Did not believe until they saw the photographs. It's like, oh, this shouldn't happen here. But it does. And those things need to factor in.
They do, I wholeheartedly agree. As my dad always used to like to say, this is my briar patch. Hey, this is our briar patch. We know.
It's our home.
We know, it's our home. We know, you know, and we have that vested interest in it. And it's up to us to make those decisions, you know, and sure, I mean, I believe there has been a accumulated effect, which is some of what you have observed, I believe. I think it's not only been to the waterways themselves. I think perhaps a lot of it, as I have noted, you know, where I've lived all my life and all, probably has had a lot to do with the change in vegetation over the several years and everything here too. Where used to we had a lot of farms that were just starting to become room sage and they were still open and this and that. Now they're grown up and it seems to me that there's more water being, you know, absorbed in that, and things have changed just, and some because of our land also. But there definitely has been an accumulative effect. I will tell you right now, there is the least gain for wildlife in Doddridge County, in my opinion, there's been in my lifetime. There is the fewest deer. There is the fishing. I used to be able to step in any of these creeks you're making mention of with a fishing pole. Go down through there and have a blast. Catch bass, catch bluegill, catch whatever, toss them back all day long. Can't do it now. They're not there.
Someone alluded to the fact that the water comes up fast and so forth now. This is one of the things that we work with in conservation is sediment. That the sediment and erosion that is going into these streams. The stream bed at one time, say, was as deep as that pavement. Because of sediment and runoff and erosion, the stream bed now is only to the seat of the chair.
But that's an accumulative effect.
Absolutely, and you cannot.
It's happening more with the.
And you cannot remove that sediment. You cannot remove that sediment from the stream because we have a protected, say, Middle Island Creek. We have a protected muscle that we must honor, and we cannot take any of those things out of there.
It cleans the water. I mean, they keep,
Right.
you know, they keep cleaning.
But I mean, these things happen, and it's just the fact that you have logging, you have farming, you have drilling, you have road building. All of these things contribute to sediment into the stream.
The more I think people cut the banks of these creeks and streams and stuff like that, the more that water is going to rise too. I had a major amount of flooding in my yard when I first moved here, but over the years I planted trees and I reintroduced all sorts of plants and everything to my creek side. So I have a creek running through my yard, which can turn into a river at times. More and more, I'm getting that under control just by letting trees grow back.
There are some programs that USDA has that you can fence off that stream and return it to its native habitat.
And it's cleaner. The water is cleaner. You don't get as much of that green stuff and all that stuff.
And you know, the agricultural industry has tried it. The EU essentially has tried to address the erosion issues with farmers and everything there. Because, hey, people contribute to it too, when the cattle are getting, you know.
But it's not gonna help when.
Okay, you know, so there are practices also here to have less erosion and all our farming practices. But the bottom line is, we got some pretty steep old hills and that clay can come rolling off of them whenever they stir some dirt around, and where's it end up?
Where they put
Right
pipelines,
there,
where they put
right there.
pipelines in
And the type of soil we have here in Doddridge County is gypsum upland.
Did you
And it just
see
sets,
the
it just sets on
floodplain
a
areas
rock plate.
before
And when you-
was
when you
presented
disturb it,
Homeland Security and
it's,
Emergency
common.
Management recommended wider ones? Did you see the old ones compared to the new ones?
In-house?
And the width of, the setback there, or whatever, is that what you're referring
Yeah,
to?
steep, yeah.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that it was 100 foot on the setback now, I believe, but that's what.
Yeah, that's 100 foot
So
setback.
my question is,
Give me for a
do
minute.
you know if that was done to take into account the sediment?
No, I don't know why.
Because I know the floodplain areas themselves grew. What was called floodplain, because I've looked at the old map and the new map. As a matter of fact, the new map that is available on the internet shows where the old one was. So you don't know why they made those floodplain areas larger.
Well, I think it was mainly they did what's called GIS, it's Geological Information System on that second one there, which basically was a flyover and tried to impose the first one on it there. I think it was just they didn't match them up that well. I think the studies were supposed to be the same. I think the lines were supposed to come out basically the same on both of them, but it didn't. But it didn't.
They were much,
They didn't.
and I saw no cases where they were smaller. And in every case I saw, it appeared to me they were quite a bit larger. The
I
floodplain
believe
grew.
so, and I can't help but wonder if perhaps the insurance industry might not have had some input in that as well. See, this flood insurance has become a very, very big issue, and that's how FEMA's paying the bills, is flood insurance. I got a notice there a few weeks back where non-primary residences, the flood insurance was going to go up 25%. I took that to mean that if you had a cabin down here along the river where you weren't living in your town, paying flood insurance on it, that was going to go up 25%, but then it said then after so long, they were going to go to the primary residences and raise their rates 25% also. And, you know, this flood insurance thing is really become a big issue for many, many
Paper
people.
sandy somehow.
So it's gonna be an even bigger issue with wells put in our floodplains.
And the floodplain insurance business and in the floodplain, it has to do with your financing of a house.
Oh,
You
yes.
go to the bank, it increases significantly the interest rate that you have to pay.
And see, in this ordinance, now, if you build in the floodplain, you have to put 2 foot of freeboard or 2 foot above that face flood elevation where they think a 100-year flood will occur. Well, they're trying to do that quite naturally to cut down on the problems that they have. You know, to not let somebody build a new one around Creek Bank where they don't get washed away.
Under the
You know,
new
so
FEMA.
they're trying to, in new construction, address these